Good morning, brother and sister comrades and family and friends, staff and volunteers, Joliet Area Community Hospice. We welcome you heartily today and thank you in advance for your service. I'll begin recognizing the POW MIA, and as I will go to the back of the room and begin the program. As I come forward to this table here, feel free to stand if you can, and we'll pay honor to the POW MIAs that can't be with us here today. You may be seated. Those who have served and those currently serving in the armed forces of the United States are ever mindful that the sweetness of enduring peace has always been tainted by the bitterness of personal sacrifice. We are compelled to never forget that while we enjoy our daily pleasures, there are others who have endured and may still be enduring the agonies of pain, deprivation, and internment. Before we begin our activities this day, we will pause to recognize our POWs and MIAs. We call your attention to this small table, which occupies the place of dignity and honor. It is set for one, symbolizing the fact that members of our armed forces are missing from our ranks We call them POWs and MIAs. We call them comrades. They are unable to be with their loved ones and families today. So we join together to pay a humble tribute to them and bear witness to their continued absence. This roundtable reminds us of our never-ending search for our missing comrade. Set for one, it is small, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner, alone against his or her suppressors. Remember, the tablecloth is white, symbolic of the purity of their intentions to respond to their country's call to arms. Remember, the red rose in the vase signifies the blood they have shed to ensure the freedom of our beloved United States of America. Remember, the rose also reminds us of the family and friends who keep the faith while awaiting their return. Remember, the yellow ribbon on the base represents those who demand a final accounting of our comrades who are not among us today. Remember, the slice of lemon on the plate reminds us of their bitter fate. Remember, the salt when sprinkled onto the plate reminds us of the countless fallen tears of families as they wait. Remember, the chair is empty. They are not here. Remember, the glass is inverted. They cannot toast with us this day. Remember, the candle is reminiscent of the light of hope which lives in our hearts to illuminate their way home, away from their captors, and into the open arms of a grateful nation. Remember, the Bible represents the strength gained through faith to sustain us and those lost from our country, founded as one nation under God. Remember, let us pray to the Supreme Commander that all our comrades will soon be back in our ranks. Remember, let us remember them and never forget their sacrifices. May God forever watch over them and protect them and their families. Remember them.
guard 10. Shoulder, arms. Forward, march. Color guard, up. Post colors. Present arms. Order arms.
Now, if you all would join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Present
pledge
arms.
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order arms.
I'd appreciate if you'd all join me in the national anthem.
Present arms.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Order arms. Color guard, face. Forward, march.
Left, face, forward, march.
Please be seated. I'm Deacon Tom Marciani. I'm one of the chaplains here. Also a veteran of the Army. It's a privilege to be here with you today and to lead our prayer. Let us pray. God of peace, we pray for those who have served our nation and have laid down their lives to protect and defend our freedom. We pray for those who have fought, whose spirits and bodies are scarred by war, whose nights are haunted by memories too painful for the light of day. We pray for those who serve us now, especially for those in harm's way. Shield them from danger and bring them home. Turn the hearts and minds of our leaders and our enemies to the work of justice and the harvest of peace. May the veterans who are here today feel your presence each day and the affirmation that their service in the armed forces help maintain our country's freedom. Bless them with your grace. Amen.
Good morning. I'm Mary Sheehan, the very proud CEO of Joliet Area Community Hospice. Thank you for being here this morning. I'm privileged to be here. I kind of have the goosebumps, and I feel like I'm standing straighter. Your service to our country is, I don't even know the words to say, but you are all the reason I became a nurse, was to take care of people like you who just gave so devotedly to our country. So thank you very much. So I'm going to make a couple introductions. First, I'd like to recognize, we have some very honored, extra honored people. Steve Edmanis, the commander of Memorial Squad, if he could. We just want to recognize you. Good morning. And the commander of the Shoreward Glen Veterans Group, Bob Thomas. Thank you. I had an aunt who said, don't get old, but I have been. So now I have the privilege of introducing Congressman Bill Foster, who is a scientist and a businessman representing the 11th Congressional District of Illinois. He previously served from March 2008 until January 2011 as the representative of the Illinois 14th Congressional District. Foster is the only physicist in Congress and the only one holding a PhD, he told me this morning. Foster serves on the House Committee on Financial Services, a position he also held in the 110th and 111th Congress, and the Committee on Science, Space, and Technology. He participated in the creation of several important reforms in the financial services and housing sectors, most notably the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act. Serving on the committee will provide him with an opportunity to ensure the effective implementation of these reforms and to advocate for the needs of his constituents as the committee considers additional financial service and housing-related proposal. His business career began at age 19 when he and his younger brother co-founded the Electronic Theater Controls Incorporated, a company that now manufactures over half the theater lighting equipment in the United States. His scientific career was as a high-energy physicist and particle accelerator designer at Fermi National Accelerator Lab. I'm awed. Bill lives in Naperville with his wife, who's also a physicist. He has 2 grown children, and also interesting to note, his father was a civil rights lawyer who wrote much of the enforcement language behind the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Please welcome me in welcoming Congressman Bill Foster.
Well, hello, and thank you all for inviting me to speak with you today. And for those of you who don't know me yet, I'm Congressman Bill Foster. I'm a scientist and a businessman, and it's my honor to represent this area in Washington, D.C. I'd like to thank the Joliet Area Community Hospice for hosting today's breakfast, and I'd like to welcome its new CEO, Mary Sheehan. And most of all, I'd like to thank all of the veterans who've joined us this morning for their service to our country. I'm always struck by the humility that our veterans display when they're talking about their service, which is why I'm glad that so many people, family and friends, came out as well to show their gratitude. Now, 2015 marks the 40th anniversary of the end of the war in Vietnam. My wife, who is Korean, she and her family are only free because of the sacrifice of tens of thousands of Americans during the Korean War. We are all free as a nation and as a world because of the sacrifice of the greatest generation in World War II. We are now trying to come to terms with a long series of wars in the Mideast. And in Washington today, even as we speak, we are having a very serious and important debate about the way forward in Syria. We have at this point about 50 special forces on the ground in Syria, and an advisory role, a non-combat role. And the way forward there is far from clear to members of any political party. And so there is no more important decision that we have in Washington than the decision to go to war. Our country should never go to war in haste. We should never go to war out of pride or arrogance or religious hatred or economic greed or any of the bad reasons that countries go to war. When our country senses an affront, we should turn our cheek again and again and again. But in the end, there will be wars that we cannot turn away from. And when that happens, there is a debt that we can never repay to those who risk everything to keep our country free. So thank you, all of you veterans, for your service, all of your family and friends for your support, and thank you for remembering that service today. Thank you all.
So now we can have some breakfast in the back, a buffet. Please help yourself and come back to your seats, and we'll have some speakers in a little while. Thank you. Good morning again. We were just at the President's Gala, and they did the shh thing, which I thought was kind of weird, but we'd like to continue with our program, so if you could all take your seats. I have the pleasure of introducing our speakers today. Holly Wright is the first. She's a licensed social worker employed by Hines VA for the last 16 years, working for 8 years in the spinal cord unit. Holly also worked with home care services, striving to keep veteran patients as independent as possible. Fisher House was blessed with Holly in 2009 as she took her role as manager, supporting veterans' families on a daily basis. Our second speaker is Mary Lee Krantz. She is a proud Army veteran spouse. She has a degree in business management, experiences which lead her to becoming VP of franchise company. Actually, Mary Lee's going to go first, right? Oh, you're both coming up. So please join me in welcoming from the Fisher House and Shorewood Glen.
You just heard a little bit about Holly Wright, but I wanted to add my comments to this, and that is you're about to meet a very remarkable woman. Holly is not only the manager of Fisher House and the Hines property, she's a caregiver to all of those of us who have resided there. And I should tell you, by the way, that I'm also a member, Mary Lee Krantz, I'm also a member of the Shorewood Glen Veterans Group. But anyway, with Holly, she's a remarkable woman. She does everything there to take care of all of us that have lived there, and she's going to. I'll follow with some of the thoughts that are refer to what it's like to actually live in a Fisher House. So will you help me welcome Holly?
Good morning. First off, thank you to Joliet Area Community Hospice and the Shorewood Glens Veterans Group for inviting me here today to share our mission of the Fisher House to all of you. I would also like to thank all of our veterans here today on this special day for us to be able to recognize all the sacrifices that you have given for the rest of us to be able to be here today. So thank you very much. For those of you who are not aware of what a Fisher House is, it is essentially a home away from home for our veterans, active duty service members, and their caregivers, loved ones, family members. A comfortable place for them to stay while that veteran or that service member is in the hospital. To give you a little bit of a background, the Fisher House Foundation which builds these homes, actually started 25 years ago by a gentleman named Zachary Fisher. Mr. Fisher wanted to serve in the military. He would have been a World War II veteran, but he was actually medically ineligible. But his work business was in construction and real estate, and he and his wife Elizabeth maintained very close ties with the military community. They volunteered heavily, both in time and monetarily. So when Mr. Fisher had learned that there was a need for a place for the families to stay while the wounded soldier was in the hospital, he stepped up to the plate and started building Fisher houses. The first 2 Fisher houses that were built opened back in 1991, one at Bethesda and one at Walter Reed. And Mr. and Mrs. Fisher personally financed those houses before the foundation was up and running and can substantiate itself. Our local house, Heinz Fisher House, as mentioned, is on the grounds of Heinz VA Hospital near Maywood. We were fortunate to be able to receive a home, working on the inpatient side for so many years. If we had a family that came to visit their loved one, to be there to support them, to provide the care that they needed while that veteran was in the hospital, the best I could do as a social worker was give them a list of local hotels that would give a discount to our families. Now that we have a Fisher House, those families can stay with us. We opened our Fisher House back in 1991. Back in 2010. So we've been open just about 5.5 years. We are essentially just a really big house. We are a 20-bedroom facility, which is considered one of the larger Fisher houses. It is a $6 million facility that was donated to the government. It has all common areas. It has a beautiful kitchen, a laundry room, living room, family room, all the things that you would have in a regular house. When the Fishers built these Fisher houses, they did not want our families to feel like they were coming back to an institution or even to a hotel, that it is a place of comfort and support and solace and a place that they can come back to and unwind and relax from being at the hospital for 8 to 10 hours a day. It is a beautiful facility, and I know some of the folks here from Shorewood Glen, they've been coming out and preparing meals for our families. So some of them have experienced what it's like firsthand. Although it is a beautiful facility for our families to stay at, the real purpose behind the Fisher House is for our families to come together and provide support to one another. And that's why the Fishers set it up the way they did, where all the families have their own private bedroom bathrooms, but the rest of the house is community area. So that way the families can come together and provide that community for one another. I'd like to share a story with you. I had a wife who had stayed with us on 2 different occasions a couple years ago. She was very quiet. She kept to herself. She stayed in her room a lot, and we would try to encourage her to get out and interact with the other families. And that was a little bit harder for her to do. Her husband was severely disabled. He was a Vietnam veteran. So her routine would be, she would walk back and forth to the hospital. She did not drive. But she would go back for her last visit around 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And she stayed with us during the winter months. The second time she was with us, she was waiting for me on a Monday morning. And she's like, I finally got it. And I was like, you got what? I wasn't quite sure. And that Friday night before, she was doing her routine. It was 9:30, 10 o'clock, getting her coat on. She would grab a cup of coffee to bring over to the hospital with her. And there was another group of ladies in the kitchen, all talking amongst themselves. And one of them inquired as to what she was doing, so she shared. And one of the wives said, no, I'll drive you to the hospital. And when you're ready, call me on my cell phone and I'll come pick you back up. The wife who offered that services had just lost her own husband a couple hours before. And so she said that hit home to her. She said, I can't help other families by driving them, but now I know I can help them in other ways. And that's the true spirit of what the Fisher House is really about, is for those families who all stay together to provide that support and concern for one another. When we opened the house back in 2010, we were a house. We opened as a house. Through the last 5.5 years, we've transitioned into a home. And if our families can say and feel that it is home to them, then we as staff have done our job. Just to give you a little insight, in the 5.5 years that we've been open, we have provided accommodations to over 4,500 families. That's a lot of folks that have come through our doors who would otherwise have to pay for a hotel with funds that they may not be able to afford to give up at that time. Our average length of stay is about 3 days. We have a lot of folks who truly just come to us and need us for maybe 1, 2, 3 nights. But unfortunately, we do have a lot of families who stay with us for months and months at a time as well. Our longest guests are currently with us. It's a young veteran. He's 37 years old with terminal brain cancer. He and his dad have been with us since February of 2014. So if all of you can imagine being away from your own homes for that length of time, that's why it is so important to those of us who serve our families to make it a home for them, a comfortable place for them to come back to. Everything that we provide for our families is completely free of charge, whether they're there for 1 night or for 2 years. There is no charge for them to stay there. We go grocery shopping with donated funds. We've gone out and bought folks winter coats and hats and gloves if they come to us without the necessities that they need. So we do truly try to provide everything that they might need during their stay with us, so that those are less things that they need to worry about and can focus on their loved one, the veteran who is in the hospital, supporting them and helping them recover and get back home. And that's why I am so grateful when the community comes and volunteers, and it means a lot to our families who stay there, given the fact that most of them are the veterans' caregivers, that they're cared about as well. If we can take care of the caregiver will be better equipped to take care of the veteran. So I do thank all of you who have already come and assisted us. And for anyone who is interested, you have our brochures with our phone numbers. I encourage you, call us, come take a tour. I can tell you what a wonderful place it is, but you don't actually get to feel it unless you come through our doors. So I welcome all of you to do that. Thank you.
Well, Holly has talked to you about the who is Fisher House. I'll be talking about what it's like to live there, and I'll close with thoughts with regard to how all of you can help us work together with Holly if you're interested in doing something like that. For me, it was sometime around June of 2011. Wes was just moved from. My husband, Wesley, Army veteran Wesley, was just moved from the Hines Hospital room to what is called the ECC, or the Extended Care Center. I didn't know how long he would be there, and I didn't know at that time that I was going to be there off and on for the next 2 years. It was about 6 months into I would work daily with Wes. I'd come home to Shorewood every night, and I'd get back to the hospital before 7 because I wanted to be there when the doctors made their rounds, because Wes was so intensely handicapped that I was a true caregiver. I wasn't just sitting at the bedside watching my husband. I was exercising him. I got him to sing, he was intubated for so long he had lost his voice. And so I'm telling you that not to pat myself on the back, but to see how stressful this situation was for me when the social worker of the Extended Care Center came to me and she said, "Why don't you consider staying on the Hines premises?" I didn't know what that was all about. I had heard people mention the name Fisher House, but to me it was a best-kept secret. I had no idea it was someplace that I could take advantage of because of the care from my husband. She found that there was a room available. I went home and I packed my suitcase. I arrived at Fisher House, and I was greeted by Holly. She took me to my room to see, your room is private, your bedroom is private with a private bath. It's absolutely beautiful. A gift was on the bed. She shared with me the house rules, and there are rules because you're living in community, of course. And then she took me through the house, showed me the various rooms which were common, like she mentioned, the living room, the dining room, and the kitchen, and so forth. But when we got to the kitchen, to my amazement, because I didn't really truly understand, I knew I'd be sleeping there, but I didn't really realize how encompassing their caregiver care was really going to be. She opened up the refrigerator, which was for me to be able to pick out anything I wanted to eat for myself when I came and went from the hospital. It was fully stocked, you know, with eggs and butter and milk and sandwich makings and so forth. The counter in the kitchen was full of fresh fruit and pastry that had been donated from Panera. She showed me how to work with the oven and the dishwasher and the washer and dryer, all of those kinds of things, just like being at home, the kinds of things that you would do. And when I couldn't sleep, I'd get up in the middle of the night and I'd paddle with my nightgown and my robe and slippers into the kitchen and fix myself a cup of coffee. That's how comfortable this place is, that you could do things like that. And the wonderful part of it was, you know, I'd fix my meals, and some of us would do it together because you have the camaraderie of other people that you can talk to who understand what you're going through because they're going through it also. It's absolutely heavenly, folks, absolutely heavenly. But then there'd be this bright spot. There'd be a flyer that would go up in the kitchen announcing that some group was going to come in and fix dinner for us, or lunch, or even breakfast. People like our veterans group. We even had Triton's graduating class of police officers come in and fix a dinner for us. It was like, what a relief. It was such a pleasant kind of thing to do. So, well, as I said, that's kind of what it's like to live at Fisher House. It's just a joy. Every need is met. Every care is taken to make sure that you are comfortable as a guest in the Fisher House. And so now I'd like to tell you how rewarding it can be for all of you if you'd like to take advantage to participate. Today's gathering is about bringing good people and good causes together. It's about veterans helping veterans. There are many ways to support Fisher House through donations and things like that, but meal preparation will provide you instant gratification because you can prepare a meal in advance and bring it in, or you can cook it there. Everything is there. But you're rewarded instantly because the people who are living there are going to be partaking of this and sharing with you how incredibly wonderful it is that you took the time to come in and do that. We have several of our veterans here that have been from Shorewood Glen that have done this, and would you raise your hand? So I wanted you to see who they were so that if you wanted to ask particular questions of them, you know, that they are available to answer them for you. So we cordially invite, even encourage you to consider participation. You were given another piece of paper in your flyer. When I first fell in love with Shorewood Glen Veterans Group, I brought to them the idea of doing a Fisher House meal because I wanted to do it on my own, all by myself if necessary, because I thought it would be one way to say thank you to Holly, to her staff, to Heinz for having the facility even available. So I put this together, and this is the form that my group, our Shorewood Glen group, used to do a meal. Everything is there. How do you make your contact through Holly Wright that just spoke to you. And I know you might have some questions, and we're going to answer them together, she and I. But, you know, there is no better way to understand our own blessings than to help people in need. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions about the program? Okay, thank you. Oh,
I'd like to make a comment.
okay.
I'm Bob Thomas from the Shorewood Glen Veterans Group. I'm the president. Mary Lee brought this idea to us over a year ago about preparing this luncheon or dinner for the veterans' families at Fisher House. And I'm not Italian, but I talk with my hands. I'll put them in my pocket. She organized the dinner and everything. There were about 7 or 8 of us that went there to serve it. And when she talks about instant gratification, about being there, the thanks you get from the family members and some veterans that are there is great. I talk a lot, and anybody that knows me knows I talk a lot. But I was a sergeant major, so we talk a lot. But I'm going to tell you, I listened. During their dinner, I sat down at a table, and I listened to a lot of the World War II vets telling me their war stories, which I find interesting. And the wives all came to me and said, gee, thanks, because I heard that story. And it really was. It's a great thing. They have, I met a girl there. We do this twice a year. We put this on our agenda for the veterans group twice a year. That's how much we enjoy being part of the holiday and everything. The staff there is great. They're the only ones that get paid. Everything else, I think, is donations. Yeah. So even if you want to donate, that's fine. But I'm going to tell you something. If you have a group of people and you want to go, I don't care if it's a church group, just a community group, try it. It's really great. I think you'll really enjoy it. And that's what I really want to say.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
Everybody enjoy their meal? Thank you, staff, volunteers for serving and cooking for us. This is my favorite time, which we get to honor you, ladies and gentlemen, that have served our country so well and for so long. We're going to distribute pins, flag pins with Joliet Area Community Hospice logo, Victory Eagle. We're also going to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War. Those Vietnam veterans will get a special pin of recognition. And I think in order to streamline this, I'm going to ask my fellow veterans that are able to, from Joliet Area Community Hospice, to assemble in the front here. And then we're going to distribute these pins. Each one would take a table or 2 on each side. So one of the vets would be here, and he would pass the pins out to the tables. And if you would come forward, gentlemen, appreciate it. And if you're a Vietnam veteran, please raise your hand, indicate so, and that pin will be given to you as special. And the rest of you, if you're a veteran, hold out your hand and it will be placed in your hand. So go ahead and start distributing those. And once we're well into it, we'll have our traditional roll call, where everybody will announce. Go ahead and hand them out, gentlemen. If you're a Vietnam veteran, raise your hand, please. Just start the different tables, fellas, and we just put them in their hands. As long as the staff and volunteers of Joliet Area Community Hospice are around, we will not forget you. We are determined to lift you up and take care of you the best we can. Vietnam veterans, raise your hand and indicate so, please. All right, I'll start with the roll call, and we'll start at the front of the room, and I'll go across, back and forth. What I would like to have you do is to say your name and what branch of service, your last name and what branch of service you served in. And that's, I think that will streamline it, and we won't be here as long. It does get to be long. So, my name is Coppin, and I'm a U.S. Navy veteran. Over here. United States Army.
Mary Lee Krantz for West Krantz, United States Army.
West Krantz, United States Army.
U.S. Army.
Last name?
Eubank.
Eubank, United States Army. Over here. Louis Amato, United States Navy. U.S. Army.
Jackie said to get the microphone.
Richard Catello, U.S. Coast Guard. U.S. Air Force. Right? Chief.
Walt Holman, U.S. Navy, retired.
And he's my chief.
United States Army, 9th Division, World War II, Purple Heart Division.
Thank you for your service.
Coppin Army, Korea.
You didn't keep your ass.
Coppin Army, Korea. This isn't working. Okay, we have over here. Old veterans right here.
Morgan, Air Force.
Air Force. All right, we're here.
Representative of Vietnam.
Stand up. This is my mentor. When I first came into Joliet Area Community Hospice, this is the man that taught me what was going on here and how to do it. And he still can't spell Navy, so.
A-R-M-Y. That's
Yeah, I got you guys. Over here.
Jeff Costello, United States Navy.
United States Navy.
Bill Corbis, U.S. Army.
U.S. Army.
Jim Shepard, United States Army.
Marine Corps.
Happy
Number 5.
Happy birthday.
I'm Jerry Hines. I'm representing my husband who passed in April.
Excuse me.
He had a standing ceremony here. It was beautiful. Jerry gave beautiful things, if I can still get them. And our vets here, they came and Cliff, everybody was saluting here in hospital, so thank you, everybody.
We at Joliet Area Community Hospice honor the spouse of a veteran because they're the ones that care for us after we come back and our lives are full of chaos and uncertainty, and the spouse nurtures us back into society. So we honor the spouse as well.
Kathy Glenn, Army nurse.
Army nurse, thank you, Ken.
Jim Blanch, Army.
Jim Blanch, Army.
Dan Quigley, Army.
Matt Connor, United States Marine Corps.
Army. Matt Remuda, Army. Gary Stern, Army.
Will Lewis, Army.
Mike Stewart, Marine Corps.
Joe Rendy, Army.
Joe Rendy, Army. Did I get this wrong? Yes, you did. All right, we're starting back there. Billy. We need those.
Fred Lang, Navy and Army.
Thank you.
Keith Coy, Army. Don Norton, Air Force. Bob Ross, Army.
Dan Eric, Navy.
Navy.
Ferdinski, Army. I just want to say my dad passed away here. Got excellent care here. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Bill Scheit, Army.
Thank you.
Bob Warka, Army.
Bob Lukarski, Army.
Back here. Navy.
World War II.
World War II.
You know, I don't know about you, but when I see a World War II vet, you can't help but thinking great. And this beloved sister here has been with us now for a number of years. I remember your face. And we thank you for your service. She's only 92. So I suppose I'm too young then, or what?
Jerry Zaremski, Army.
Thank you.
Bob Thomas, United States Army, retired.
Thank you. Air Force.
Ken Binsick, Army.
All right, let's start the back here.
Riker, U.S. Navy.
Edwin Barber, U.S. Air Force.
Tom Denny,
Marine Corps.
Linda Forty, U.S. Army Air Force, World War II.
U.S. Army Air Corps, World War II.
Monroe, Navy, World War II.
Bob Smith, U.S. Army. Back here, anyone? All right, how about back here? All right, let's get some of these uniforms.
Steve Bonus, United States Air Force.
Jim Gate, United States Air Force.
Bob Duffy, U.S. Army.
U.S. Army. There we have it. We get everybody. How about my brothers up in the front here?
Vietnam Army.
Next time.
Ed Strozinski, U.S. Army.
Thank you. Anybody else? Did I get everybody?
Thank you.
Well, that wasn't so bad. Last year, if you remember, we had you give you your service number, and I was shocked, along with a number of other civilians, how much that number is a part of our lives, even when we're in our 90s. And I thought about that the other day. What is it about that? Well, I was watching a movie, and what it really resonated with me is that when you are taken prisoner of war, what are you instructed to say? Name, rank, and serial number. So that's so drilled into us during boot camp and throughout our service history that we can't forget that. And so that's one of the reasons why we were so astonished. And I sort of figured that out by watching that movie. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of the roll call about honoring our POWs, MIAs. We cherish you, we really do. We can't do enough for you guys and ladies. And your service to our great country, it's great because of you. And we know that, and we honor that. Thank you for your attention today. Who's that?
I'd like everyone to join with me for God Bless America. As the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair, as we raise our voices in a solemn prayer. Everyone join me. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Thank you.
Take your seats, please. Take your seats. We have to retrieve the colors. The Abraham Lincoln Color Guard will retrieve the colors.
Please have a seat. We're almost.
Guard 10, put. Shoulder, arm. Forward, march. Color guard, oh. Present arms. Order arms. Retire colors. Shoulder arms. Color guard face. Forward, march.
May be seated.
think I want you there every time I speak. You may be seated. It really works. So on behalf of Joliet Area Community Hospice, thank you for being here today. Hospice, you may know, means shelter. That's the origin of the word, and that's what we want to be for all of you, for our community, for our patients and families. I feel the loss with you of those who have recently lost. I do have a couple nurse positions available if we have any interest back there. I want to thank Jerry, who pulled this all together. And all of the participants and all of the ceremony. Linda, for singing so beautifully, thank you. Bill Foster, he had to leave, but we really appreciate that he was here with us today. Holly and Mary Lee, thank you for representing the Fisher House and Shoreward Glen. And most of all, thank you to all of you, the veterans, for your service, for your love of this country, and why I'm able to stand up here and do what I do. So, thank you. That's it, right, Chair? Okay. Now you can tell them to stand up again, right?
You are to stand.